Hey, welcome to Books and Brew. I'm your host, Andrew Huff. I'm a novelist, screenwriter, director, all-around media producer. And this show is all about me sitting down with fellow authors and getting to know their creative writing process just so I can steal it for myself. Now, every single writer that I know loves to have a favorite beverage with them while they write. And 9 times out of 10, that's usually going to be coffee. And so while we get to know these authors a little bit better, get to know all about their books, and get to know what it takes to be a writer, I get to try their favorite writing brew with them. So let's meet today's guests and find out what we're going to be drinking. Betsy St. Amant Haddox is the author of over 15 inspirational romance novels and novellas. She lives in Louisiana with her husband and 2 young daughters. She likes pickle chips, I think, and is also on a mission to prove that unicorns are real. She loves seeing women restored in Christ about as much as she loves drinking coffee. And so I think Betsy is a great fit for Books and Brew. Welcome to the show, Betsy.
Thanks. It's nice to be here. I've got my coffee ready.
It's already ready to go. I need to get mine ready. So, Betsy, before we find out what you write and what your books are like and get to know your writing process a little bit better, tell me what I'm drinking today.
Okay, so you've got a Keurig cup of Starbucks cinnamon dolce, and it is my favorite because it's got a little bit of that sweet flavor. So you've got some cinnamon going on, but it's not overpowering. I personally can't stand the vanilla flavored coffees. They get too artificial. So this one for me is that perfect little bit of something extra than just plain black coffee, but it's not overly sweet. So
that's awesome. I'm really excited to drink it. And, I'll say this. I know people give Keurig, a lot of grief, but I'm great with the Keurig. So I'm excited to try this. It works, and I'm ready to brew it now. This isn't going to take as long, but I'm going to get the machine up and running. And while I do that, you're going to tell us about your books. You're going to pitch us. You've had one come out. You got one coming out. Tell us what you write. Tell us what these books are about, and why we should read them.
Perfect. Okay. So yes, you should totally buy my books. No, I have a 2-book deal I'm in the middle of right now with Revell Publishers. And so the one that first came out last October is The Key to Love. I have it here. It is a contemporary romance featuring Gerard and Brie and a little Parisian bakery in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. So kind of an interesting little sidebar here was when I first started writing this book, I actually planned to set part of it in Paris at the Lovelock Bridge. And then Paris literally goes and shuts down the Lovelocks. They took them all off. They said it was an eyesore and it was dangerous because the walls were collapsing. So I'm like, really? You couldn't have just waited? Like, this has been an icon for how many decades? So I had to revamp my story, but I ended up setting it all in Kansas, and it turned out to be, I think, way better that way. So,
that's cool.
Things happen for a reason.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that one is this small town baker makes her own version of the Lovelock wall. And the bakery owners, Mabel and Agnes, are these 2 eccentric old lady sisters, and they are so fun. When I was writing their characters, I honestly felt like I was just along for the ride. Like they would just say things. I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all are hilarious. It was detached. I just love the side characters in The Key to Love. So that's the first one. And then my next one coming out.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you pitch your second one in just a second, or this new one coming out. But I've said this to a couple others already before, but that's one of my favorite things in writing is when sometimes a character just kind of takes on a life of their own. Yeah. Really, they all do, but then there's always a character that's going to surprise you, and turn out to be different than you kind of anticipated as the writer. And those are always the best moments for me when those happen. So
it is, and it's also the hardest to explain to people who don't write. They're like, "What do you mean your character won't do what you want? Like, aren't you the author? Can't you make them?" And I'm like, "You don't understand. It's not that simple."
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So the second book coming out in October of this year is called Tacos for Two. And I have this handy dandy little printout that got really weird on me. You see how the color changed halfway down. It's supposed to be this lovely yellow orange.
I was going to say, I've seen it. I can promise it's that orange.
Just pink and blue is not actually happening. So we'll have to show y'all.
We're going to put a picture up so we'll see the full color. It looks great. It's a great cover.
But this book I'm really excited about coming up in October. It is I call it Food Truck Wars meets You've Got Mail. So there's a girl, a man and a woman who are falling in love anonymously online through a anonymous dating app. So that was really fun to create. It's called Love at First Chat. And you know how The Voice, the show The Voice, like you have to commit to the voice before you see what the person looks like. It's kind of the same gimmick for the app. So they don't know who the other one is right away, but they're connecting online. And then it turns out they are going to be, in real life, they are enemies and food truck competitors with a very big drive to win and a lot of high stakes. So it's a lot of conflict. I've got a lot of You've Got Mail quotes incorporated throughout, and I'm so excited about it.
That's awesome. You had me at food trucks. I love food trucks. So, all right. Hey, so the Keurig's done brewing, and I got to tell you, yeah, it already smells amazing.
Yay.
Like the room smells like cinnamon.
Yep.
In fact, like it feels like it should be Christmas time right now. But I am going to put this cup before I give it a taste. We're going to put it under the coffee cam. We got a coffee cam over here. We're going to check that out.
Ooh.
I'm telling you, it smells incredible. So there
it's
we
like
go.
Your whole house turns into a giant cinnamon roll.
I know. Which, you know, what's funny is it has a very cinnamon tone to it, as I will even say. Like it looks very, very good. So now here's the thing. I'm going to try it a little bit. Oh yeah. I've also determined that this is, you know, as I do these, maybe some people's favorite parts of this is going to be like the smelling of it, you know, where I'm like, get close to the mic. I'm like, you know.
Is that the equivalent of like the wine swirl, you know? It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
If you really know your wine, you know how to swirl it. Okay.
You can kind of see it right there.
Oh yeah.
So here's the thing. I don't review the coffee until the very end. So I'm going to have to I'm going to try it. Well, I'm not going to tell you what I think, you know, because we're going to chat and then I'll review it.
Okay. You'll have to hide
It's also very hot. Yeah, I know. I need to hide my. What if I took a sip and I was like.
Spewed it that way, you know.
Yeah. All right. Spoiler alert for my review. It's very good. So this is great. So I have your coffee. You have your coffee. Yes. We're going to talk a little bit of writing process. Here's a question for you that I was inspired to ask. Now, obviously, this could be a fun conversation in and of itself. Book cover design, because publishers handle that. And like my publisher has been so gracious to ask my opinion, which they didn't know what they were getting into in asking my opinion. And so, you know, I have been a big fan of your book covers because they're just really neat and very, almost the cover in and of itself makes me go, oh, that looks great. Like I would totally pick that up. And so, which I don't know how you lucked out about that. Are you doing them?
Yeah. No, I am not. I do give feedback, but you know.
Yeah, you get some great covers.
Yeah, thank you. Ahead. I say thank you. I can't really own it, but I love them too. I think Revell has done a great job on these recent two. And even with other publishers in the past, I just feel like I've always been really fortunate to have really good looking books.
Yeah. And so, but it kind of made me think of, and even as you were talking about, you know, the baker that does the sort of lock, what'd you call it? Like the lock gate or whatever. Yeah, the love lock thing. And it made me think about just what inspires us as writers and the different things that we go to. And if there's anything sort of unique or anything fun that you think of that you go, here's something that I find myself being inspired by a lot that's different from maybe what somebody might expect a writer to say, you know, because I think often people probably are like, oh, you're inspired by real life. Like you know, this happened to you, or you're inspired by something that happened to another person. I mean, I find myself being inspired by random things, you know, like music and art and all sorts of stuff. So I don't know if you find yourself drawn to maybe something that you go, hey, this is something that inspires me visually even when I'm writing.
Yeah. So you said music. There is a song I just love. Now, I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of country music. I used to be, kind of grown out of it. But there is a song, is it, I forget the author now. Is it Thomas Rhett? It's called Marry Me.
Okay.
You know that one?
I
Oh my
don't.
gosh. It's just
Um,
the perfect slow song, and it's super sweet. And the one thing I keep coming back to with like kind of older country is it just tells a story so well. Like some of Carrie Underwood's songs, or they tell a story,
mhm.
and I think that's why I keep giving them a chance. But there's this one song, "Marry Me," and I was like, I have to put this in a book. This is a perfect song. It has to go somewhere. And I created this whole scene where my hero and heroine in The Key to Love are dancing to this song. And what's really fun is it's kind of like an Easter egg because it's not blatantly clear what song it is. I don't spell out the title, but people who know that song are going to immediately know by the hints I drop. So it's kind
Right.
of fun. It's like a little bit of a trivia thing for who's paying attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can inspire whole scenes from just hearing a song on the radio or
Mm.
something like that. I love it. And then I can listen to that while I write the scene, and it just really puts more emotion into the writing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Do you ever like sometimes too, I'll find myself as I'm creating characters or even getting into a scene, wanting to try to visualize almost everything down to even like the clothes they're wearing, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I almost create mood boards in a sense of like a recent example of what I'm writing is I found an apartment building that I wanted my character to live in and found I pinned the page for probably apartments.com or whatever that's got the floor layout and it's got the virtual tour of it and
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And with your suspense, you probably have to be a little more um, familiar with like floor plans and things, because if your
Mm.
characters are running from something or,
Hmm.
having to escape, you've got to be really sure about what window is where, and you have to know more of those
Right.
details, I'm sure, for your genre.
Yeah.
Me, I'm just
Well,
trying to set the romantic mood of more of the like aesthetics,
yeah.
uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's
so along
really
those
cool.
lines, I had this is, we could also go off on this tangent, but I overplan often with or over like outline and stuff like that. Not
Mhm.
over. I think I did an appropriate amount. Uh,
For
but
debate.
I did have one scene that was that was like a chase, like an action chase or whatever across the rooftops that I was developing. And I had basically the map of the city and I
Hmm.
was like plotting, like it almost was a visual representation of the chase and where they went and what happened where
Fun.
from like a top down, or like I think I
Yeah.
even ended up doing like some sketches of like, oh, if he falls down here and climbs this, and stuff like
Yep.
that, just to keep it all in my head as I'm kind of writing it. So I definitely find
Yeah.
myself doing that sometimes. But
That's fun.
um, yeah. One you brought up though the fact that I write suspense, you write romance,
Mhm.
and I do think that's an interesting conversation of genre and the differences. Because, for instance, you're not having to go, okay, what are the schematics of this building, and you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Because I also think while there are differences, there are a lot of similarities. But what are kind of some of my maybe a good way to start is what are some of the sort of key features that you would say, hey, here's the things I'm keeping in mind as I'm writing romance. Like these are important things. These are the things that I really find myself focusing on.
Oh,
That
yeah.
maybe is specific to that genre.
Okay. Well, for me with romance, pacing is really important for the relationship. So you've kind of got two stories going on with a romance. You have the love story, the actual romance thread, and then you have the external plot, which is whatever's happening. Are they trying to save a bakery? Are they putting on a town festival? What is the external plot, going on? So you have both of those going at the same time. And ideally, you can use each of them to play off and create conflict with the other, ideally. In a perfect world, that works out great. But I'm always really cautious of the romance pacing because you want it to be believable. You don't want the characters to fall in love too fast, to be kind of like, that's not real. But you also don't want there to be this, you know, they hate each other the whole book, because that's not really a romance, you know?
Right.
So it's just kind of working that happily ever after formula of, you know, boy meets girl, boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, you know, and
Right.
just kind of making that,
Yeah.
and then making that work with the external plot that you have going on to where,
Mhm.
you know, it plays off each other. So pacing is one thing I really try to keep a good handle on, because I know when I read, I feel gypped if that's not right. So I don't want to do that to my readers. So yeah, what would you say? What would be one thing for suspense that you're always just front and center?
For me, with what I write, I find it really, like, I could write action. Like, I just love taking these characters and throwing them into a situation that is dangerous, and it's crazy, and things just keep happening, and I love that. But it wouldn't be a very interesting novel if it was characters you didn't care about.
Right.
And so I have to remember that it's important uh, to let you breathe a little
Yeah.
bit, because the easier thing to do would be to just keep throwing the action in.
Yeah.
But there needs to be that room to breathe, right? And so
Mhm.
even it could even come in the context of a character's in the middle of a chase,
Mhm.
and there's just a moment where there's a breath, and
Mhm.
there's something that is at the top of their mind within that moment, apart from everything that's going on, that we just are
Yeah.
reminded of, or the thought that comes in, just to
Yeah.
continue to build, what that character's priorities are, or stuff like that.
And that's got to be hard, because back to the realistic element, you know, if someone really is running for their lives, you know,
Mhm.
you got to keep that realistic of what would they actually stop and think about right now. You know, you've
Right.
got to be real careful with that, but you do need that to keep them three-dimensional and in
Right.
human flesh and all that. So
Yeah.
that's got to be really tough for suspense.
What I think would be fun, Betsy, we'd never get anybody to do this, but
Mhm.
I should write a romance and you should write a suspense thriller.
Okay, wait. I actually started a suspense a couple of months ago. I have like
Yes.
one chapter, but I got inspired because there's a guy at my church who's in the military, and he's a pilot. And so he's done drills before about having to get
Hmm.
dropped off in the jungle and how do you survive. And, you know, like he's done that, but he's never done a urban setting. So he literally had
Okay.
to go for like 3 days and be dropped off in the middle of some big city in Arizona.
Oh,
No
wow.
ID, no money, no nothing. 3 days. And to make it even harder, he was a person of interest with the local police. So like 80 cameras, you know, and then they had a fake terrorist group after him too. And I'm
Right.
like, what a fun book idea. Like, what if
Yeah.
he was like doing a drill, but it turned real?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how
yeah.
fun is that? So I wrote a chapter of it, and then I'm like, what am I doing? I can't do this. And I backed off of it, but it was really
That's a
fun.
great idea, though. That's a great idea.
It's fun. I might go back to
You
it.
could definitely make it a romance,
Yeah, it would
with
have to be.
that obviously has all those
Yeah.
elements of thriller in it, but it's
And it's
obviously
fun.
all just training or whatever. So that's really, really fun.
Just that
I
one
kind of have a
chapter thing.
similar I had a similar idea of trying to write it was going to be a romantic suspense,
Yeah.
uh, but this this is funny. Maybe this will get cut. I don't know,
Okay.
but I'm going to tell you anyway, uh, because I think it's a great idea. So you and I have met and have attended ACFW conferences. That's how we
Yeah.
met. And at an ACFW conference, for if I keep this in the video, it stands for American Christian Fiction Writers Association, or yeah, ACFW, American Christian Fiction Writers. Yeah, and they put on a great conference, and it's so much fun to go to, and a lot of people go. I am one of the rare breeds that goes to these, because I'm a male writing in the Christian market. And so it's fun. But I had this idea because I know a lot of female writers, and especially a lot of just wannabe writers. That's a great place to go to. You're meeting a lot of people, you're honing your craft. And so a lot of people are really trying to pitch there and may not, haven't been published yet. And so I came up with this story about this girl who is this woman who wants to be a fiction writer, but she is so unsure of herself and all this kind of thing. And her friend convinces her, hey, just go to this writers conference. Like, you're going to love it. She goes to the writers conference. A murder happens at the conference.
Ooh.
They lock the conference down
No.
for the police to investigate this murder. And she finds herself sort of as a mystery writer trying to help solve this mystery. But I was like, it's set at a writers conference. I know it would be probably a little bit more mystery and romance than it would be like the action thriller type thing. But I was like, talk about like those of us who've been to those conferences and know what that's like. Only like this real life mystery happens like at the conference. So that was.
You have to write that. I want to read that.
I know. Yeah, but yeah. So, and then obviously there's like, you know, the police detective is really handsome, and he's like,
of course, they have to be. They are in every book
together. Yeah,
it kind of reminds me. What is that really famous book turned movie where there's a murder on the train? It just came out like a year or two ago.
Oh, wait, is this an older Agatha Christie book? Murder on the Orient Express?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a really good movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think of that. So.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, the conference would be, but I'm like, I have so many, like, I could totally write that world of like, and who the suspects would be, you know, you'd have like the really famous authors that are there. You'd have like the wannabes, you'd have the editors.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. You're writing this like tonight. You're starting tonight.
Yeah. So you got to write your action romance though, with the guy that's dropped in. That'd be awesome.
We were talking about the similarities between the two genres and like what we both look for when we're writing. You kind of mentioned like scene breaks and chapter breaks, ending.
Right. How you end it. Yeah.
Got to keep reading, you know. The same definitely goes for romance. It's just in a less dramatic way. There might not be a killer, you know, or extreme danger, but there's just some kind of, you know, hit to the developing romance where you're like, oh no, I hope they work that out, or oh no, like she misunderstood, or you know, something to where you want to keep turning the pages because you're eager for them to get together. And I actually teach a writer's workshop on subtext. And I teach that the use of subtext, you know, just really takes your story to the next level. It's subtext meaning what's really being said beneath the surface, kind of that double meaning type thing that you see a lot in novels. And when you can end a scene break or a chapter break with subtext, I mean, it's just golden, you know, to keep the reader turning pages.
Yeah, so, that's awesome.
On that part of it for sure.
Yeah.
And you said earlier something about how many guns can you fit into this?
Yeah.
It's so funny because in this one, The Key to Love, my hero, Gerard, is like he's a travel writer. So he carries a gun with him on all of his travels, you know, just for security.
Yeah.
And my girly girl heroine has no idea. And so there's a scene that's so funny. They think someone's breaking into the bakery. And it turns out it's each other. So there's this whole fun scene where he has this gun in the back of his pants and she's freaking out. Like, is that a gun? You know, like, but in your world, he probably has two, like, maybe a knife in his sock, you know?
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. I firmly believe that there are so many parallels in terms of what we do as writers that really go beyond genre. And it's like, we're all doing the same thing, really. For instance, is that while I want to get a lot of those technical things right, there is an element, and I just say this as something that I want to do, and I realize there's other writers that may take different approaches, but I go, there's going to be a little bit of heightened sense of realism that I'm going for, where it's not, that car chase probably wouldn't happen. You don't see that, you know, that kind of damage. I get it. You know, it's like, it's whenever you watch like, you know, Mission Impossible film or something, you're like, okay, like this is not happening in real life.
What was the one where Jason Statham like drove a car like from one parking garage to another?
Oh yeah. That might've been like one of the Fast and Furious. Is he? I think
it was one of the Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Furious number 39 or
Which I feel like, I get it. Like, I realize that's not happening. It's still fun. And so that's kind of what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious for you as you're writing, like, do you feel that a little bit? Or, are you, obviously you want it to be real, you want it to feel grounded, but at the same time, you kind of want it to be fun and entertaining and like,
Yeah.
heighten things a little bit. What's that like for you?
Yeah. So I guess I would call that like kind of taking a fictional license. It's like you want to keep
Right.
things real, but there's a little bit of wiggle room because it's still a fiction novel, right? So in my upcoming novel, Tacos for Two, I had to do that a little bit with this online dating app. I wanted to keep it realistic, thinking about people today who really do date online and what that would look like for them. I didn't want anything to feel to roll their eyes, because they're living that out in real life. So I want it to be, relatable for them in the story, but also for those readers not familiar with how that works. I got to kind of think of everybody.
Right.
And you can't please everybody. There's probably going to be somebody who would say that would never happen. Jason Statham would never do that.
Right. Yeah.
But for the most part, I like to stay, kind of, I guess I think of it as guardrails. It's like, you want to have fun with it, like you said, but, and you want it to be believable. So just kind of finding that happy middle, and you have to do that with a romance too. A lot of times, back to the pacing, it's like, you want to keep that happy medium. But at the end of the day, it's still a romance novel. They're going to fall in love, there's going to be a happily ever after. And so you just want to get it there in the most realistic, but still entertaining and engaging way possible. And so sometimes I think you just have to pick your battles.
Right.
Pick them with my editor.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
This isn't believable, and I'll email her later some crazy thing that happened in my real life day. Like, you probably wouldn't let me put this in my book, would you? But like, this actually just happened. She's like, yeah, you're right. You couldn't write that. So we just have fun with it. Yeah, she keeps me between the rails.
Yeah, that's a great example of like, just making sure that it's just right up on the edge if you get to it, right? Of like, this is really pushing it. That happens writing suspense sometimes, of going, okay, I want this to happen. I find myself pulling up Mythbusters episodes a lot, because sometimes things that I'm having to do, they may have already tried, to see if it actually would work. And if there's like the slightest possibility it could work, that for me is like, I'm gonna probably keep it in there. So.
And that's a good thing about like writers groups, where there's a mass of people you can access, or even social media. Sometimes I'll get on my Facebook author page and just be like, hey, anyone in the medical industry, is this realistic?
Yeah.
And if it's not realistic,
that's a great idea.
At least acceptable.
Right.
Is this going to get me hate mail, or,
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually will kind of ask my fans, because it's fun for them to chime in. I love interacting with readers on my social media pages in that way. Like, what would y'all say if y'all read this? I have to do that a lot with like pop culture references. When I'm kind of wanting to make a joke or something, I'll say, if I mention this person's name, do you have any idea who that is? And then I just take majority and decide, okay, either I'm too old now and nobody knows who this person is, or if I'm So yeah, it's fun to get second opinions and bring your readers into some of those decisions.
See, and that's just that. This is the whole point of the show, because I'm totally stealing that, and I'm going to totally use that for myself, and become a better writer because of it. So
there you go.
Success for me.
I would chalk it up to the coffee. It's the coffee's magical.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Hey, speaking of, I got to review it, and we've got to find out how we can keep following along and give you some ideas for your books. But review, here's probably the best review I can give. It's basically gone. There's like a little bit left. There's like a swig, but it was really, really good. Now here's my confession. You ready?
Okay.
I am kind of snobby about not drinking flavored coffees, because I typically eschew, I'm like, give me the rich, the flavor of the coffee. Like, I don't want any additional flavors added. So I usually would be like if I saw a Keurig and it's like, here's a vanilla this and here's a that, I'd be like, please, you know. Yeah. But I didn't even think about it. It was so good. Yeah. So this was great. This was really, really good. And I'm not just saying that. I know people are going to be like, hey, he's friends with him. He's always going to say he loves their coffee. But I'm not just saying that. It was great.
We're just opening up a whole new world for you. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So when you drink your normal coffee, like your regular daily coffee, do you drink it black or do you do any kind of creamer or milk or sugar?
I drink it black. Yeah.
Amen, so, brother.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah. Great coffee, great conversation. Betsy, how can we follow you? Give us your quick spiel on platforms because we want to come help you write your books.
Perfect. I love feedback. So you can reach me at my website. It's www.betsysaintamont.com. All my books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, the usual places. And then I'm also on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I think my Facebook, I'm Betsy St. Amant Haddox now, but I still write under Betsy St. Amant. That was my author name from way back. So if you just type that in, you'll find me on social media.
Yeah, and I'm going to link to it as well, so they'll be able to click through and follow you. You can follow me at my author website, andrewhuffbooks.com. Find out all about my suspense series there. I have links to all of the social media platforms that I'm doing. I'm doing them all. But this has been Books and Brew with my friend Betsy. Betsy, thank you so much for being here. It was so much fun. And I hope that I can grab coffee with you and with you maybe in person someday soon. So we'll catch you later.